My salary last year was £4.5 million. Well, not mine, but Chris O'Shea, CEO of British gas owner Centrica, he was on the BBC this morning in an interview talking about energy prices and the cost of living and his own company's profits. And during the interview, he was very upfront and he revealed his salary last year, £4.5 million. While, of course, many of his customers are struggling with the cost of living, struggling to heat their homes, many of his own staff are in difficult financial positions as well, just like the rest of us. And here he is on £4.5 million a year. And he even said in the interview that nobody could justify that kind of salary. And it raises an interesting point that comes up quite often in our media training, because we always try to encourage our clients to be open and transparent. All the problems with giving interviews, and you see this all the time with politicians, is when they're trying to hide. They're terrified that a journalist is going to expose the truth. Chris O'Shea has got himself in a position where that fear isn't there, because by getting that across, by volunteering that information, it removes a lot of that worry, and it means he can be a little bit more relaxed and just concentrate on being himself. There's a prize that comes with being open and transparent with journalists in interviews. Now, in many situations, and Chris O'Shea is a particularly extreme example, but if you're running a local authority or you're the boss of a large charity, your salary, while it might not be in the public domain, it's also probably not a secret. If we really wanted to, we could go and find it. We could understand the accounts. It might be in there. It might be subject to freedom of information legislation. We can probably figure out a fair idea of what your salary is going to be. So why hide it? Why try and cover it up? Because it might come out anyway. Chris O'Shea knows that, yes, he might be getting some criticism for his earnings today, but if it wasn't today, it would have been when the company profits come out, or they next put the bills up, or they make people redundant. You know, if we're concerned about CEO pay in the energy sector, or what the heads of service at local authorities in Scotland earn, that debate will just come and go as and when. What Chris O'Shea's approach does is it removes the fear from him. It gives him a little bit more control over the narrative. But the most important thing it does is it throws everybody else under the bus. And I think the benefit for him is people saying, well, I don't like these big energy companies. I don't like these CEOs. I don't like these fat cats. But he's okay. And we see this a lot. I don't like these politicians, but they're okay. And that's quite a nice position to be in. If you're concerned at all about your reputation, about being regarded as a good leader, if you're interested in recruiting people to come and work for you, or, you know, if I do need to be or want to be with one of the big six energy providers, well, do you know, I'll go with British Gas, because although that Chris O'Shea guy is, he's a multi-millionaire, he's not some anonymous, faceless fat cat hiding in the shadows. At least he comes and sits there and tells it how it is. Now, what he needs to be really careful of, and what you need to watch as well if you're going to do anything like this, is that he doesn't come across as flippant about that money that he's earning. And I think that's a real tightrope that he's, I think, quite successfully walking at the moment, where, well, I'm not going to apologise for how much I earn, because frankly, I think I deserve it, and I think it's the going rate, and that's just what it takes. And he says he doesn't even, it's not him that sets his salary, it's set by the remuneration committee or the board that dictate what he earns. He didn't take his bonus. He doesn't always take his bonus. So we're not apologetic about it, but we would never wish to be blasé about it either. And he goes on in the interview and he talks about the customers, talks about his own mother, a pensioner, and, living on her earnings. He tries to show a bit of understanding and empathy with the customers, with people, really struggling to make ends meet at the moment. And I think he does a reasonable job with it. The moustache, I'm not so sure about. And of course, we shouldn't judge people on their appearance, but it is something that's attracting lots of discussion today, and there are lots of people making comment on his moustache, and I'm sure he knows that, understands that, and expects it. And I think it's part of Chris O'Shea's personal brand. Now, I've followed him. I've never met him or worked with him, but I've followed him for quite a number of years now, and I think what he kind of identifies with are people leading big tech companies. I think the sort of Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerbergs and the Sheryl Sandbergs of the world, I think he feels something of an affinity with them, or the way that they come across in interviews. So the way that he dresses, the way that he presents himself. And again, that sort of forthright honesty. I think he's borrowing heavily from tech companies. And I think he's doing a pretty good job with it. And again, it helps him stand out. He's a recognizable face of the energy sector. Yes, that means he will get lots of criticism. He will be a focal point for some of it. But I also think he will be spared some of the worst intensity that will be reserved for the anonymous leaders that never have the guts to sit there and say how it is and then take it. So if Chris O'Shea is able to do that with £4.5 million in the energy sector, where are you CEOs and heads of service for local authorities and charities in Scotland and other companies? What would you do in that position? Are you able to free yourself from that fear of, oh God, what if this gets out? And be forthright and honest and start to build some trust and, hey, maybe even some goodwill. And if you'd like some help with that, and I've worked with lots of people who they'd like to do that, but they feel that they can't because the board wouldn't let them, or the legal or HR wouldn't let them. I love nothing better than coming into organisations like yours and bringing everybody together, the leadership team, the board, these other factions that you need to deal with, and help you arrive at a transparent, honest and trustworthy communication strategy. So if you'd like to know more, please do get in touch. It's comsteria.co.uk. Thanks very much for watching.